Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Thank you. Om Jnana Timriyandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakchurun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitanyena Bhutaye Swayam Rupa Kadadmayam Tadatikam Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragana Tam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadavetam Savadhutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Trubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'd like to seek the blessings of all the assembled devotees and also to those who may be listening online. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from chapter 18, verse 56. Sarva karman yapi sada kurvano madvyapasraya mat prasadat avapnoti shasvatam padam avyayam. Okay, so Sarva karman yapi sada kurvano mad vyapasraya mat prasada navapnoti sattvatam padam avyayam sarvakarman yapi sada kurvano madvyapasraya mat prasada davapnoti shasvatam padam avyayam. So I might say one line and then if you like to repeat. Sarva karman yapi sada kurvano madvyapasraya mat prasadat avapnoti shasvatam padam avyayam. Sarva karman yapi sada kurvano madvyapasraya mat prasadat avapnoti shasvatam padam avyayam. Would you like to have a go at the recitation? Thanks. Sarva karman yapi sada kurvano madvyapasraya mat prasadat avapnoti shasvatam padam avyayam. And the word for word, sarva, all, karmani, activities, api, although, sada, always, kurvanaha, performing, mat vyapasrayaha, under my protection, mat prasadat, by my mercy, avapnoti, one achieves, shasvatam, the eternal, padam, abode, avyayam, imperishable. And the translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Though engage in all kind of activities, my pure devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. So, though engage in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. And purport. The word madvyapasraya means under the protection of the Supreme Lord. To be free from material contamination, a pure devotee acts under the direction of the Supreme Lord or his representative, the spiritual master. There is no time limitation for a pure devotee. He is always, 24 hours a day, 100% engaged in activities under the direction of the Supreme Lord. To a devotee who is thus engaged in Krishna consciousness, the Lord is very, very kind. In spite of all difficulties, he is eventually placed in the transcendental abode, or Krishna Loka. He is guaranteed entrance there. There is no doubt about it. In that supreme abode, there is no change. Everything is eternal, imperishable, and full of knowledge. So this is an interesting verse. So it says, though engage in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. So this is addressing the point as well that in terms of interactions with the material world and in the world of duality, there typically is karma. So when we're engaged in the material world, there's naturally actions and there are correspondent reactions. So when one engages in devotional service, this then changes. Devotional service is on the transcendental platform. So therefore, when one actually takes shelter of Krishna and his representative, the spiritual master, one's karma then changes. So one no longer has receives the results of sinful activities and good activities, but their karma becomes tailor made by the by the Lord Himself. That whatever happens in our karmic circumstance is actually brought along by the Lord for our own purification. So in this material world, um, mostly everyone is actually receiving the results of pious and impious activities. So the second we actually surrender and we say we just want to serve the Lord, then that's when we get the full protection, and things change in terms of um, our karmic circumstance. So there's different symptoms also, which is mentioned in the scriptures, and Srila Prabhupada also mentions them in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So these different symptoms of a surrendered soul is that we accept anything which is favorable for devotional service, and we reject anything which is unfavorable. We also we have full faith in the protection of the Lord, and we feel ourselves to be completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord also. And also, well, this is for someone who's actually is completely feels as if they're actually reliant on the Lord. And then we also feel that we only have whatever the Lord's interest is in mind. So we're just interested in whatever will please the Lord in that sense. And then also, one who is actually surrendered, a symptom of that is to always feel themselves meek and humble. So this is interesting in terms of when we actually have to accept what is favorable and reject what is unfavorable. So Srila Prabhupada was very and Krishna consciousness in general, the teachings of Krishna consciousness, they want us to always keep good association. So Srila Prabhupada said, when one of his devotees asked him a question, said, how can I become serious in devotional life? And Srila Prabhupada, he answered the question, if you want to become good at drinking, you should associate with those who are good at drinking. So this is a typical example that if you actually associate with someone, you will subtly pick up their qualities. So this is something which is once we actually are in the association of whatever company, we will naturally start to pick up their qualities. It's a subtle happening. So this is actually the importance of good association. And just in this morning's class, Srila Prabhupada, he was speaking about he mentioned the word demonic in terms of those who are considered demonic, but his description of demonic isn't a standard Oxford definition, because we think of demonic as a very strong word, but from a scriptural point of view, that is which is outside the rules and regulations of scriptures is considered demonic. And even when we consider this, even what's inside the rules and regulations of scriptures and what's outside of the scriptural injunctions is considered insane and sane as well. So it's from a worldly perspective in the material world, it seems quite a tall order that basically from a spiritual perspective, the majority of the world is demonic and devoid of sanity in that sense, because it's mentioned also in the scriptures that one is considered to have no good qualities unless they're actually a devotee. So we can see that whatever anyone does is naturally going to lead to no fruit. There's going to bear no positive fruits unless it's actually in devotional service. So that's just how it is in terms of the scriptures, and we can see actually when we're in the we have to come to the mode of goodness, and that's when one actually comes to the mode of goodness. That's when they start to actually follow um, actual scriptural injunctions. But beyond that is actually ignorance and passion. So this is actually the majority of the world are completely in ignorance and passion. But it spoke about actually under my protection. So when we actually surrender to Krishna's will, we have his full protection. And we can see this actually is very evident in the Mahabharata. We have the pious Pandavas who are devotees of Krishna, and then we have, well, the Pandavas were completely Krishna conscious, very Krishna conscious, and then we have Duryodhan, who was naturally envious of the Pandavas and had many qualities which were considered to be more demonic in that sense. But we can see when one doesn't actually take shelter of devotional service, then the real interest is actually self-motivated, and this is actually they want what is actually just sense gratification, and they're just run on basically the more animal propensities. So when one actually has regulative principles and follows scriptural injunctions, that's when is actually considered to be human on the human platform. And actually when one, no matter what they do or how refined they believe they are, but if it's not actually in devotional service and there's no actual rules or regulations, even though we may think it's very high class from this material world, but it's simply what Srila Prabhupada describes as like polished animals. So it's simply just following the four propensities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So these are the four main propensities. But to use these propensities only for Krishna's service is what we have to do, not to be actually to have them to dictate our lives. Just gonna do. So here's a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, text 18. Ahankaram balam darpam kaman krodam chatsamritaha mam atma para deheshu pradivishanto bayashukaha. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. A demonic person, being always against God's supremacy, does not like to believe in the scriptures. He is envious of both the scriptures and the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is caused by his so-called prestige and his accumulation of wealth and strength. He does not know that the present life is a preparation for the next life. Not knowing this, he is actually envious of his own self as well as of others. So of his own self means his own higher nature. He commits violence on other bodies and on his own. He does not care for the supreme control of the personality of Godhead because he has no knowledge. Being envious of the scriptures and the supreme personality of Godhead, he puts forward false arguments against the existence of God and denies the scriptural authority. He thinks himself independent and powerful in every action. He thinks that since no one can equal him in strength, power, or wealth, He can act in any way, and no one can stop him. If he has an enemy who might check the advancement of his sensual activities, he makes plans to cut him down by his own power. So this we can see is very much evident in the life of Duryodhan. So Duryodhan in the Mahabharata, he had everything that anyone could ask for. He had a good family. He had he was ruling, the full kingdom of ruling over the world. He had all the riches, the wealth, everything, and even he had good association if he wanted it. Also, he had lots of good advice even. So he was he had everything that anyone could ask for. But still, due to the actual uh, the prowess of his cousins, the Pandavas, he became envious, and this is what dictated his own life. And instead of being actually satisfied, he became completely envious, and he tried to just to kill them and cut them down by any means, which ultimately was what led to the whole destruction of his dynasty. So this is the sign of one who is actually, when one becomes entangled and completely so self-centered that they're, without actual following the scriptural injunctions, their vision becomes so obscured that they see the negative in everything, and they pursue that. But then the Pandavas, they were naturally pious, and they were feeling compassion for the Odin actually, and they wanted to avoid the war at all circumstances. And the Pandavas were naturally Krishna conscious, even if they weren't so aware of it. In terms of, we know that like when Arjuna was always a friend of Krishna, and when they were on the battlefield in Kurukshetra, then that's when they had the conversation, and the Bhagavad Gita takes place in the middle of the battlefield. But this is when Arjuna, at least for other people's understanding, actually realizes that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and then the whole relationship changes from friendship to a guru disciple in that sense. But we can see that throughout the battle of the Mahabharata, there's many instances where simply by Krishna's will and um, Krishna's protection on his devotees, we can see that it's often claimed that Arjuna, with Arjuna's prowess, he said he can destroy everyone in the three worlds and statements like this. But actually, when we see the Mahabharata, what was Arjuna's prowess? It was actually because he was protected by Krishna. So we can see in the Mahabharata, there was one circumstance when I believe it was Bhagadatta and his elephant, and Bhagadatta had a boon which Arjuna was unaware of, and he used this weapon, which is called the Vaishnav weapon, and he used it to kill Arjuna. The Vaishnav weapon. I believe it was a boon attained from Lord Shiva for his austerities, and during the war he saw Arjuna was a formidable opponent, so he went to kill him with the Vaishnav weapon. So when he actually fired the weapon, at this time, Krishna stood up, and Krishna just stood up in front of the weapon, and he just opened up and went to take the weapon on his chest, and then from that, what happened was the weapon just turned into a flower garland and adorned Krishna. And then Arjuna was saying, Krishna, why did you do this? I'm strong enough to, I can handle this. I don't need your help in this circumstance. And then Krishna explained to Arjuna that actually this Vaishnav weapon can kill anyone. Nobody can escape from that. So what actually happened was, without Arjuna's knowledge, it was Krishna who actually saved his life in that sense. So this is just another example of being under the protection of Krishna. And also another example as well is when Arjuna, he made a vow that he would kill uh, devotee, was it the devotee who actually he sorry, I'm just trying to think that he killed he killed someone, which Arjuna was, he killed his son actually, Ashvatthama, sorry. Radha Gokulananda ki, Sita Ram Laxman Hanuman ki, Shri Gauranitai ki, Jai. So it was actually his Arjuna's son Ashvatthama who was killed by foul means within the Mahabharata. He was a 16-year-old, and he Abhimanyu, sorry, yeah, Ashvatthama, sorry, I was thinking. And then Abhimanyu, he knew how to break the defenses of this formation, and because he overheard it, Arjuna speak about it before. So then he did break in, and then when he was actually killed by foul means, and he was held off as well by, I believe it was, trying to think of the name, maybe you know the name, it's not Jarasandh, or he was the same personality who went to kidnap Draupadi in the forest, but he was he was very puffed up and demonic, and he had this boon from Lord Shiva also, that he could withhold anyone. So Arjuna had vowed to kill him, and he was able to withhold him for some time, but also he said he was going to kill them before the sun sets. So this is another example when the sun was actually just about to set. Krishna, by his mystic opulence, he played a trick whereby he I believe he used his Sudarshan chakra, and he actually put it in front of the sun to blank out the sun. So it looked like it was completely dark and the sun had set. And then that's when they relaxed. And at that point, Krishna gave Arjuna the advice to slay this personality, which he did. And there's also another boon that anyone who kills him, who drops his head on the ground, will themselves die. So what happened was the head flew onto his father's lap, who was meditating, or sage's lap. Sorry if I'm a bit rusty with the story, and then the sage passed away, or his father. And just another example that even Arjuna's his vow was actually backed up by Krishna, and Krishna made it happen. But another interesting thing is in terms of Duryodhan. So Duryodhan, near the end of the war, when the battle was practically won, he went to he believes he's going to be fighting with Lord with Bhima, and then his mother Gandhari she wanted to protect him. She felt very compassionate and very distraught that all her other sons had been vanquished in the fight, and she wanted to use all her, from such long many years of penances and austerity, and she had a lot of mystic power, so she wanted to actually use this to actually completely fortify the body of Duryodhan. So she asked Duryodhan if Duryodhan could just please come and meet her, and this time to completely remove any garments he had. And then when he met Krishna, Krishna said, this is no way to actually meet your mother in that sense. So he said to at least cover your loins. So Duryodhan, he felt embarrassed, and then he actually decided to follow what Krishna said. So when he did this, then his mother, she pulled down what covered her eyes, and then she became completely upset, and she knew straight away that Duryodhan was dead, because from his thighs and upwards was the places were actually didn't get actual protection at a fortification. So she knew that this was actually going to be a weak point in the battle, and she was right as well. So this is just another example that Krishna will actually protect his devotees, and it was actually Duryodhan who was in the end vanquished. I wonder if there's any questions.
Could you read say where was you were reading from?
Uh,
Which verse?
yeah, this is chapter 18, text 56.
If you could read just the purport. Could you read the translation of the purport?
Yeah, if you want to read a purport, you can read it in your spare time.
Okay.
But the translation is, though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. Yeah. So these are just examples where they protected their life. But the thing is, once we actually take shelter, it is that it's mentioned that we will be literally, dragged, that we won't be forgotten about, and the spiritual master said that they'll keep even coming back until we're finally free from this bondage. Another example as well, one who was completely dependent on the Lord in terms of surrender, is Srila Prabhupada himself. When he boarded the Jaladuta and he set off to America, he was basically just completely, he had complete faith that he had the protection of Krishna, and in this sense he wasn't wavered, and he went with just we had a lot of sets of Srimad Bhagavatam, some trunks of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he had just some cereal like granola or muesli as well. So he was very limited, and even though he had so many obstacles for someone who was 70 years of age, and he suffered 2 heart attacks on the way over, and then when he arrived there, it was quite a cold and austere climate at the time, and he had started staying in this what's called a Bowery, which was basically the low point of town, which was where all the drunks and so on would hang out. So this was his circumstances, but he was it was this Jewish man, actually, Mr. Reuben, that it's say that he actually used to speak with him on this bench in the park, and he was describing that he's telling about all the temples that would actually manifest, and he had complete faith in this, and he was saying that only time actually separates it. So he was completely fixed in Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada. And one another actual symptom is, hope against hope. So this is what Srila Prabhupada had. He had a complete faith that even though externally things looked not so promising maybe, and there's lots of trials, but he had that faith, and naturally he prayed to Krishna. What am I? When he was, he was going through some trials, and he was saying to Krishna, why have you brought me here? You must have brought me for some reason. So if you want me to dance, please make me dance. So he was just depending on the empowerment of the Lord, and by that empowerment, he was able to fulfill that actual prediction, which was predicted at the time of his birth by the astrologers, that he would actually open a set of 108 temples, which I believe was actually fulfilled in the end. So I'd like to know if there's any questions, any more questions. Yes. Yes, I said Yeah, that's what it said. Yeah, and even um, yeah, that's what I heard. And even in the Bhakti Charu Maharaj, even in the which is accurate, is the Abhay Charan as well. It shows this as well when he was born, that the astrologer predicts this, and positive omens that um, he didn't go for the just sort of money or all these auspicious omens. But said yes, at the age, even at the age of, I believe it was later in life, even at 70, that he would cross the ocean. So all this was actually predicted at the time of birth by the astrologers, and that he would yeah, open 108 temples and you know provide salvation for so many fallen conditioned souls and so on. Yeah, but yes, one interesting thing is Srila Prabhupada, he wrote these prayers under Jaladuta, but he also sorry, in New York, but he also composed many nice prayers as well, which were um, he was a Sanskrit scholar as well. I'm not sure if he composed them in Sanskrit or Hindi, but he composed many nice verses as well. And I just saw some of these also spoke about that, predicting that Lord Chaitanya and that his movement and the chanting of the holy name will be chanted in every town and village as well. So also previous acharyas and Lord Chaitanya and so on, they've all talked about the spreading of Krishna consciousness all over the world. But Srila Prabhupada has also he's also actually um, reconfirmed this and also predicted this as well in what he's actually left behind also. So I wonder if there's any more questions just before. Yes, Rubu.
I remember on our home, we speak about Abhimanyu
Yes,
some of the formation.
yes,
Actually, when he was in room with his mother,
yes,
he at that time he was able to hear what they were speaking. I think Arjuna was speaking about. He heard how to enter the formation, but he didn't hear how to leave
yes, yeah, that's true.
because of
He's
his
dead. Yeah.
so yeah, that's something I remember when he was speaking.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Boo, for sharing. So I'll just repeat it for the if someone's listening online. Just say that in terms of Abhimanyu, that what recalls is that he could hear Arjuna discussing about this formation, and even when he was within the womb of his mother, and he was able to uh, he knew how to actually enter it, but he didn't hear how to leave it, so he didn't know how to actually get out of the formation, which was what led to his death as well. And also, I just remember as well that he was like fighting with such prowess like Arjuna as well, that he was also the fact that he couldn't get out, but he had to be attacked by unfair means by six highly qualified warriors had to actually fight him all together to actually finally to slay him in the end. Yeah. Okay. So thank you. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. He's like a second Arjuna. Yeah. Yes. So, Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, all glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Jai Krishna.
Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Kiva Jaya Jaya Gaurachander Arati Shobha. Kiva Jaya Jaya Gaurachander Arati Shobha. Dhulaya. Narahari Adhikari Chamara Dhulaya. Sanjaya Mukunda Vasu Goshari Gaya. Sanjaya Mukunda Vasu Goshari Gaya. Shankha Vaje Ganta Vaje Vaje Karakala. Shankha Vaje Ganta Vaje Vaje Karakala. Chandra Jini Vadana Ujvala. Ga da da da, Reme ga da ga da.
Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namah Vishnu Padaya Shaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Ashtatya Rishatarine Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gauranga Jashi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Nityananda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotara Shata Sri Srimad Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinata Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dhama Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Shri Radha Gokulananda Ki Jai, Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai, Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namaste
Hare Krishna. So Mahaprasad is now being served in reception, so you can now go take Mahaprasad. Thank you very much for attending evening Arati. Hare Krishna. No, what? Yeah, where's someone go? Hare Krishna. Okay, why do you suggest that? Why do you suggest that? Yeah. I think leading RTs and doing kirtan are kind of two different styles there.